So, good morning, everybody. Morning, Jenny. It's very early for us, isn't it? We don't normally broadcast at this time, do we?
It is. I know. We don't. It's usually lunchtime. So yes, we're breakfast showing. And well, Chris Evans can do it, can't
Well,
he?
exactly.
So
And let's
I
face it,
think
we haven't had to get up as early as Chris Evans does, so I'm
no,
quite happy with that. So
exactly.
yes, we're doing something a little bit different this time because that's just what fits in for us. But that's the beauty of doing our own show and doing it live, is that we can change things up a little bit if we need to. So here we are. It's episode 56, which is just incredible. I was listening to Kate Porter's podcast. I haven't listened to your
Oh,
episode yet, Jenny, but I will get there.
I love Kate.
Yeah, and she shared some stats in her 50th episode about, and I'm afraid I can't remember the details of the stats, but the long and the short of it was that there's only a small percentage of podcasts that reach episode 20, and there's an even smaller percentage that make it to episode 50. Well, we're on 56. Isn't that incredible?
I think yes. I think we should pat ourselves on the back.
Definitely, we deserve a pat on the back, most definitely.
Yes.
So
I was doing I was at Lindsay McGlone's
yes,
Reclaimed Means Business last week, and there were fabulous podcasters there, and so they interviewed me about our podcast.
ooh,
So I'm looking forward to that episode going out.
that's
So it's very
exciting. Oh, you'll
exciting.
have to let me know what podcast that is.
Yeah, yes, I will.
Fabulous. So we thought, didn't we, Jenny? We got our heads together and we decided it would be a really nice idea at this point. I mean, obviously, if you've been listening for a while, you're going to know quite a lot about us already because we speak very honestly about all the things we talk about. But we thought it'd be a great idea to do an episode themed around who are we? Who are Rachel and Jenny and what do they do and why and all those things. So it's still the same as normal in terms of we haven't discussed the questions, so everything will be a surprise in the moment that it's spoken. But we thought we would delve a bit deeper into who we are. So let's go for it. So first question, Jenny, for you. Why did you first get into coaching?
Oh, well. I've always basically the very short answer is because I love it. But it's probably deeper than that.
Funny old
So
thing.
I am, I suppose I'm a registered nurse. So my first career, if you like, was in nursing. I was a pediatric nurse specialist. And when you work with children, as you might imagine, they don't come by themselves. They come with their families. Obviously dogs, pet, all sorts of things. So the relationship as a nurse that you have with children and their families is very different to the one that you have when you look after adults.
Yeah.
I did that as well. But so I got used to relationships and how we talk to each other and all of that stuff, all of my career. And when I left clinical nursing, I joined the Royal College of Nursing in their Education Institute, and was introduced to coaching as part of a management development program that I did. And I've just loved it from the moment I experienced it myself. When you experience something and you think, oh, I want to do this, or I really want to do this. And I was really chuffed because at the end of the program, they asked a couple of us if we would do the coaching. It was actually career coaching, really. That's where I started doing career coaching for the Royal College of Nursing. And what I realised was that it's much harder because as a nurse who trained in the olden days, of course, you were trained to much more mentoring. So you were giving advice, people would ask you your opinion, you'd give them evidence-based information, best practice, blah, 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 all of that stuff, which has its place and is absolutely fabulous. And then as a coach, of course, you do the opposite.
Yeah.
So that was a really steep learning curve. But the more I did it, and the more experience I had, and the more I trained, the more I loved it. And I just I just think it's an amazing, and as ever, never-ending skill to have. And there's always something new to learn, isn't there? There's always,
Oh yeah.
and you get to hold space for people, which is just such a precious thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. My journey into coaching, to be fair, it wasn't a planned or deliberate one. I mean, it sounds probably different to your journey into it, but there's a lot that resonates in what you said. So when I left the Air Force, I already had my network marketing business, and that was my plan. That was what I was going to do. But part of my the resettlement process from leaving the Air Force was, a pot of resettlement money to retrain, to set you up for life in Civvy Street. And I knew that I wanted to do something with that around coaching, because I'd had an experience on a course I was doing in the RAF with an NLP master on this course. It was a logistics course, nothing to do with coaching at all. But we had an afternoon with an NLP master. And I found the whole thing just so fascinating, because he started by telling us what NLP was actually all about, and then we did some group exercises and various things. And I came away, I've always loved psychology and the people and how we interact and all that stuff. And I just came away absolutely fascinated. Right, something in my resettlement will be to do with coaching, because it absolutely speaks to my lifelong interest in people. So there's something here that I think I would really enjoy. So I was doing my coaching diploma not to actually become a coach, but to feed my own personal development and fascination. And I figured, well, it's just going to help me in general, isn't it? Because it will help me to perhaps better understand myself, better understand my relationships with other people, and hopefully just make those relationships even better, both in life and business. And within a month of starting the diploma, I just knew that this coaching thing was an absolute revelation. And I just knew it had to become the main thing. I'd had also prior to that an experience where I was being coached by a colleague in the RAF who was doing a coaching training. And I couldn't believe that just a few words could make such a difference and would make me consider something in such a different way, just by asking the right question. And coaching with her, that will always stay with me. It was quite a profound experience in such a short space of time. So when I was doing the diploma and started to realize what an impact it was having on me, learning more about myself and becoming more self-aware, but the impact that it would be possible to have to help other people, that just absolutely spoke to my values and everything else. And it just, I've never looked back, other than when the pandemic started and the only option was online. And I was like, oh no, no, it needs to be face to face. And actually, the pandemic, I think, did us a favor in that sense, because it showed all of us how successful online coaching can actually be. I will always prefer face to face. That's just how it is. But I also happily work online, because the pandemic made me try it and made me realize that it did actually work. So yeah, there you go. So what's your first question for me then?
So, well, not surprisingly, it dovetails beautifully. So my first question is, what do you love most about what you do?
Okay, I mean, that's probably a fairly easy one, and I have a feeling it might not be too different an answer to the one that you will give. But seeing the difference that people can make for themselves when they just delve a bit deeper and work out why they've got the thought patterns that they have, why they talk to themselves in a certain way, quite often realizing that it's not actually their voice at all, it's someone else's, that they've taken on because they think they should, and that's how life should be, and I should act this way. You know, folks, if you're listening, I'm sure we've said this before, we hate the word should, because the shoulds that we tell ourselves can be so damaging, to our psyche. But yeah, it's seeing the difference in someone when they realize something about how they can live their life that just works better for them, and makes them realize the potential that they've got. And actually, okay, I don't have to settle for this thing that isn't quite fulfilling me, or this relationship that isn't working for me, or, you know, there's a way I can reframe that to live with it, or I can change it completely and put it out of my life. You know, just the seeing that on someone's face when they realize that they do actually have the control and the power to make change for themselves is just, it's priceless, isn't it? It's, you know, I think I wish more people knew about the power of coaching, and that can so often be the outcome. You know, I think some people, perhaps just because they've never experienced it, perhaps don't trust that that's what can happen. But I think once you've experienced it, it's magic. I love it. But then so do you.
I do, but one of the things I love most is very different, which is useful, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely, I totally agree with what you said. But one of the other things,
Yes.
one of the other things I love most is the transferable skills. So I've done a lot of work in health. I've done a lot of work in the financial sector, in education, in manufacturing, in retail, and one of the things I love most is the variety, the infinite variety, and how we often we like to label coaches a bit like we like to have things compartmentalized, don't we? So
Yeah.
I said, oh, I started off as a career coach, and then I went into leadership, did a year's leadership coaching qualification, and then I did this and I did that, and I've done lots of different kinds of coaching. I've, you know, again, because of the interest, somatic coaching, there's NLP, there's all sorts of different kinds of coaching, and we like to put people in tidy little boxes, and I'm not a huge lover of boxes. Well, actually, I've got quite a lot of boxes in my house at the moment, but one of the things I love most about coaching is that you can take what you know, and you can apply it in lots of different situations. So I haven't found a sector yet where if people are, we call them coachable, don't we? If people are open to being coached, that coaching works, regardless of the background that you come from or the expertise that you have. So that the training is the thing. And what I love about it is the fact that it works anywhere. And as you said, online, down the telephone. Well, part of my original training, we had to do telephone coaching, and I was like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like the idea of that. Actually, of course, it works, and there are times when it's incredibly useful to use telephone coaching instead. I mean, now we have, obviously, online is easy, but back in the day it wasn't. So I think for me, it's that infinite variety of the principles. When you know your stuff, the principles that you can apply that anywhere. So it doesn't matter. And that's what I love, is that it works. It works in any sector, anytime. A bit like the Martini advert, isn't it? If you're old enough to remember that. Anytime, any place, anywhere. And that's what I love about it.
So true. That's brilliant. I'm really glad you've pointed that out, because that's not necessarily the thing I would always naturally think of, but it's so true. So
my brain, you know how my brain goes.
Okay, so the next question, and this can really go anywhere, but because we're doing the Who Are We episode, tell us something about you that we might not know already.
Oh, I mean, I think I share quite a lot.
Yeah.
But I was in a a session the other day with the fabulous Danny Wallace, and we were doing our you know verbal business card. So
Yeah.
how you say what you do and why you say it in the way that you say it, and the so what at the end. And I have always resisted doing this because I hate it. I find it
Yeah.
really difficult to do, and so I have always avoided it. But obviously, I was in a room and there was no escape. And I introduced myself as, my name's Dr. Jenny Gordon, and I knew most of the people in the room have
Yeah.
been, we've been in each other's worlds for quite a long time, and almost all of them said, "We didn't know you had a doctorate." Um, and I said, "No, I obviously people on LinkedIn know because I put it on there.
Yeah.
But for most of the time, I don't say it, and I think um, I've thought very recently about why that is,
Mm.
because I'm incredibly proud of it. It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Can
It was
imagine. Yeah.
also the most joyous, and I the reason I was able to do it was because I applied. So I had applied for a grant to do some work at the hospital, doing a mobile. It was a mobile massage unit for children
Yeah.
um, with special needs, and I wanted to call it Feels on Wheels.
Love that.
And I had misread the funding application, and the funding application was for £350,000. So my bid came in at £348,000.
Wow.
So I thought I'd done a really good job and it was a fabulous service. I was doing it with a consultant, fabulous service, and we put the bid in. Um, and to the chief scientist's office in Scotland,
Oh, gosh.
and the reply came back, and they said um, that it was a really good bid. However, the 350,000 was for the whole of Scotland for all of the projects that were being considered, and it wasn't per project. So, as ever, the devil was in the detail, which I had missed.
Yeah.
But they invited us to go and see them, to talk to them, because they liked the principal. And they said to me, we would even if you hadn't misread
Mm.
the bid, Jenny, we would never give you funding of that amount because you have no research history.
Ah, right.
And I
Okay.
said, well, how do I get a research history? And they said, oh, it takes time. You have to work with a clinician, and you have to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do this. And in typical Jenny style, I said, oh, I haven't got time for all that. I want to do it now. I can't be jumping through all those hoops. And she's a fabulous lady, this the head of the scientist office. She said, well, not quite in these words, but this is what she meant. If you think you're so clever, we have research grants, we have research that will fund you to do a PhD.
Yeah.
But it is really hard. It is open to all health professionals in Scotland. So
Yeah.
you are up against doctors, anaesthetists, physios,
No pressure.
dentists, all of them. Any health
Yeah.
professional from any field is eligible to apply. So if you think you're so clever, get it in, get your application in. And so I don't think I realised quite how big a deal it was,
Yeah.
fortunately, because I think that I might have frightened myself out of it. But because I was like, right, so I did it. I applied, and I won. I
Yay!
won one of the places, and I was only the second nurse to ever do
Really?
it. So it was a really big deal.
Yeah.
But of course, because loads of other things happened just after that, I think I didn't ever really celebrate what a
Mm,
big deal that was. It was such a fabulous thing to be part of. And it allowed me to do my doctorate full time.
amazing.
So I had to leave my job, which was sad. But to do that was just phenomenal. So
Mm,
I am the proud owner um, of a doctorate, which I'm incredibly proud of. And
brilliant.
I tend not to talk about it because I think I was worried that people would think I was too clever for my own boots, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That typical thing. Yeah.
I am, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
We're not. I think we're so socially conditioned, aren't we,
Yes.
to
Oh, we
um
mustn't boast.
to
That wouldn't do.
not yes boasting. And it actually, I think there is I get there's an arrogance, but there's also a thing about actually it was a really, really big deal.
Yes.
And I'm incredibly proud that I not stuck it out and I did it and I completed it and I've, got the certificate and everything.
Yeah.
So I am incredibly proud of it, but I don't talk about it a lot.
No, no. Oh, I love that. Well, thank you for sharing that because I hadn't realised, and obviously I know very well that you've got a doctorate,
Mm.
but I didn't realise, that you were the second nurse to be able to do it, and like the journey of how you got into that is really quite something. So yeah, it makes me even more impressed at how wonderful it is that you have a doctorate. I shall start calling you Dr. Jenny from now on.
You don't need to, it's okay.
No. That's great, Jenny.
What about you? Yeah, what rate? And again, we know each other well, don't we? So you
Yeah.
always think, oh, what can she surprise me? I suspect you're going to.
Well, yeah, maybe. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before or not. So I pride myself on being a good driver. I may have had to do the naughty driver courses a couple of times as well.
Speed awareness,
However,
speed awareness.
yeah, in terms of the mechanics of driving, I pride myself on being a good driver, being able to handle the vehicle, all the different types of reverse parking and whatever else, and I parking straight, I've got a real thing. If I'm not parked straight, I'll probably move the car to make it straight. So, I care and I like to think I'm a good driver. Far from perfect, as we know, perfect doesn't exist anyway, but I am fallible. I do make mistakes and I hold my hand up to that as well. So there is a part of me that's a little bit ashamed to admit that it took me 5 attempts to pass my driving test. So, quite a story of resilience, I suppose, determination. But I was very nervous about learning to drive, and the typical thing of your heart racing and cold sweats and all that sort of thing. And I learned to drive with a great instructor who, the first session, he sat and told me exactly how an engine works and why the car does what it does, and I was oh my god, that this is not my kind of thing, but it did stick with me actually, and I have used it since to describe it to other people like my girls, but I was very, very nervous, and I think part of that it was natural nerves, but there was also in the back of my head, I knew that when my mum had started learning to drive, she was very nervous. And in the end, she didn't continue with it and didn't go on to take a test and drive because she didn't like driving. She found it an awful experience because she was nervous. And she was obviously concerned that would potentially be dangerous for other road users as well. So I think I had this thing in the back of my head, what was I going to be the same? So I was kind of constantly battling with that as well. And then when it came to the tests, so I'd learnt with the same guy who'd taught my brother, and I considered my brother a good driver. So I thought, great, I've got the right instructor. This is good. And he suggested that, because he said, when you take your test, if you want me to, I can sit in the back of the car as well. So coming from a position of being quite nervous, I thought, well, that's a good idea, because I won't know the instructor. They'll be a complete, the examiner, sorry, they'll be a complete stranger. So yeah, that sounds like a good idea to have my instructor in the back. What it took me a few tests to realise was that actually made me far, far worse than I would have been had it just been myself and the examiner, because I then felt extra pressure to impress my instructor and to make him proud, and to make him look good as well in front of the examiner. So I got there eventually, but not with my instructor sat in the back seat.
I didn't know that, and you'll be pleased to know it took me 3 goes to
Oh, well, there you go. I'm in good company.
pass mine. So yeah, and again, the first time they cancelled my test because the weather was so awful, and but I'd taken the day off, so if I didn't go to work, I didn't get paid. So I was determined to sit it. So I was supposed to sit at 9 o'clock in the morning, and eventually they did at 2:30, and it was snowing, and it was blizzardy, and it was icy, it was hideous, and they failed me for hesitation at a junction. I was most upset about that. And then, of course, the next time I got the same examiner. So I completely went to pieces because it was the same examiner. And he, at the end, halfway round, I wanted to get out and say, look, I know I've messed this up. I'm so flustered by you being here and knowing, and at the end he said, I should have passed you the first time. And I said, yeah, you should. He said, because you've just gone to pieces. And I thought, I know, yeah, I have completely gone to pieces. So I feel your pain, and you're right. It is that you think you've got support in the back, but actually it's worse.
Yeah. So I know what to advise people if they ever ask now about, should I have the instructor in the back? Absolutely not.
No, one person looking at you is enough.
Yes.
So, which leads me nicely on to my question, which is, what's your biggest challenge about what you do?
Ooh, okay. I think, and I've probably said this before, I think the biggest challenge is describing it accurately and giving people the right impression about what's actually involved. And I can see from your reaction that resonates very much. What a surprise, we're on the same page. I think, and I honestly don't know if this will ever change, but because there is so much variety in the coaching sector, and so many people do a bit of coaching but also a bit of mentoring, or they do a bit of coaching and a bit of training, or they do all of the above. I think until I think the only thing that would change it is if the industry became regulated, and then there would be lines in the sand that would help the public, the general public, to understand perhaps what the different types of coaches are. I just, so many people, I think the default setting for people when they meet me, the assumption is that I'm a business coach, because I'm in a business networking environment. So they assume that I'm going to help them build their business, and obviously there are lots of business coaches out there who specifically brand themselves as, I will help you grow your business. For me, I can absolutely help you grow your business, but not by telling you what to do with your cash flow and your marketing and all that stuff, but by helping you, the client, to realize your potential and to stop holding yourself back from making bold decisions that are scary, building that confidence to be able to make those decisions. And it's just, I feel like it's a constant challenge that I spend a lot of my time trying to explain to people what it is that I actually do, and that it's very much the purest version of coaching, I guess, is the way I tend to verbalize it, in that I'm not going to tell you what to do. I might make a suggestion. If it feels right, then I might make a suggestion for the client to think about and see how it lands with them. But it's done out of curiosity to see what impact it has for them and what thought process it provokes. So it's not a case of me saying, right, well, I think you should do this, because if you do this, that's going to happen. That's just not how the purest approach of coaching works. So, yeah, I think it's a constant battle that a lot of coaches face, whatever your type of coaching, because there is an assumption among the general public of what coaching is all about. Usually, I think a lot of it is based in the fact that as we all grow up, we see sports coaches, whether that's at school, whether that's in an elite sport that we follow, they have coaches, and those coaches help to train them, help them to be better at the sport they're doing, better technique. And, there's a lot of mentoring and training and teaching involved in that type of coaching. So I guess it makes sense that people then assume the same applies to us, but it really doesn't. And yeah, I feel like I do spend a lot of time trying to describe it accurately, and sometimes not getting it quite right.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think that is a challenge. And I said earlier about what I love most was the variety, but
Yeah,
it's also the biggest challenge, isn't it? Because
yeah,
being clear about, and I'm sure there are many. The other thing that I find challenging is that, as you mentioned, that coaching currently isn't a regulated
yeah.
profession, and therefore anybody who's read a book or who's done a 10-minute course
Yeah,
can potentially set themselves up as a coach.
yeah,
And so it we are up against, and I don't like that term, we're up against, but there are a lot of people who say that they are coaches, and I'm also not against people who've had experience. So
yeah,
it's not all about qualifications, but there are very specific techniques and things
yeah,
to learn as a coach that it's really important to have a handle on. So I think the choosing I'm always very clear that choosing a coach that meets your needs where you are now
yeah.
is really important. And it isn't about somebody's better or worse, they're just right for you.
Yes,
And I've
absolutely.
certainly I've always had a coach ever since I first discovered it. I've
Yeah,
always had a coach, I've often had more than one. Um, they at different times in your life you need different kinds of coaching,
yeah,
and so I think that is also something that's quite a challenge to help people understand that it's not like it's a bit like changing your car. You don't you buy a car, you have different needs at different times, don't you?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's the same for coaching. So I think it is tricky for all the reasons you've said, but also there's a lot of noise online, isn't there? The
Yeah,
online space is noisy and confusing, and there's a lot of people making promises that I'm not necessarily sure they can keep. So
yeah,
that doesn't do us any favors either.
no,
So that um, being clear about what we do is hard. Uh, so yeah, it can be a challenge
yes,
to describe, and I think we both do that sort of coaching in the purest sense, don't we? Because it's
yeah,
about the person,
yeah,
starting with you.
yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So if you've got any questions about that, folks, then do let us know, because again, we always love to carry on the conversation, don't we, Jenny? So we'd love to know your thoughts on that as well, and whether you find the coaching industry just as confusing as those of us that are in it. Um, anyway, so my final question for you, Jenny, is what's beneath it all? What's driving you to do what you're doing? What keeps you going when it's hard?
So as you know, recently, I have what they call in the industry, I have niched, which was something that I've always avoided like the plague.
Yeah,
Um, and I quite liked being a generalist. So I had avoided wherever possible, I had avoided niching.
yeah,
And I think when I decided to focus on the mother-in-law some and that in-law relationship, what keeps me going was the fact that I saw and I experienced, and I have people talk to me all the time about the fallout, the consequences of not thriving in that relationship.
Yeah.
And that the more complex, with every generation, it feels like the world gets slightly more complicated.
Yeah.
Um, and when we have more blended families, and we have, more complex combinations of families, then actually that in-law relationship gets more complicated.
Yeah.
And when it works beautifully. When it doesn't work, the consequences are the ripples of those consequences are felt much more widely than
Yeah.
just the immediate people involved. So I think for me, it's the wish to leave the world or a part of the world uh, in a better state than it was when I found it.
Yeah.
So that wanting to use both my expertise and my experience to support people to thrive, because, as I said, when that relationship works well,
Yeah.
it's an incredibly enriching experience for everybody involved, and the opposite is true
Yeah, of
when it
course.
doesn't. um, and so I think what drives me is the knowing, and I use that word, that knowing with a capital K. um, I nearly said capital N then. Knowing knowing with a capital K, that certainty that my purpose in life is to make a difference, um, a positive difference in the service of others.
Yeah, absolutely. And it won't surprise you to know that that resonates massively for me, because I was sitting listening to you talking and thinking exactly that. It's about making a difference. It's about um, sharing what I've learned for myself, but not wanting to keep it for myself, wanting to share it with others to help them to also help themselves, to empower themselves. I talk about empowerment a lot, and empowerment means different things to different people. At one time I did call myself an empowerment coach, and I actually dropped that because some people misunderstand what that then means. So I stripped it back again just to be the pure naked coach. But that the ability to make a difference, or more to help someone make a difference for themselves, which is the empowering part of it. You're not doing it for them, you're just supporting them to get there for themselves. And it's just priceless. Like, you can't put a price on the impact that can have for someone. Arguably you could look at what difference it makes to their business or anything else. Okay, fine, but it is priceless to know that
It's
someone.
life changing, isn't
It
it? It
is.
is life changing, and we use transformational, a lot. It's an
Yeah.
overused word, but it is life changing, and so many people over the years have said that,
Yeah.
that they now have the tools, and they have changed their lives for
Yeah.
the better, because when they good old, Maya Angelou, when you know better, you do better,
Yeah.
and that's the space that we hold that allows people to do that. So it's a huge privilege and an honor, isn't it,
It
to
is.
to be able
Yeah.
uh, to do that.
Yeah. It really is a privilege, and I feel really driven to reach as many people as possible. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I think it's one of the reasons that I really enjoy the one-to-many delivery, whether that's workshops or whatever that looks like. But I'll always love one-to-one coaching, because that is
Mm.
so powerful. but there is something really special in one-to-many delivery as well, and the dynamic of that, and the knowledge that you're able to help more than one person at once, and therefore across the span of your life, if you like. There's lots of people's lives that you can help in a positive way, and that just feels like the right thing to do, at the right place to be. Guess what? We're on the same page again, folks.
Funny. So my final question is, what juicy plans have you got for 2026? Because I feel like we're at the back end of this year, aren't we? And so we're thinking about what might happen next year. So yes, what juicy plans have you got?
Well,
Obviously, we've got some for the Renny show, haven't we?
yeah.
Which we can share in a minute.
Yeah, there's all sorts happening actually for 2026. So the first thing that springs to mind, and I can't say too much about it because it's not public knowledge yet, but I'm working on a very exciting collaboration with a wonderful friend and business owner locally for wellbeing retreat days. Now, I love collaboration for the same reason that I love one-to-many delivery. I love collaborations as well, that kind of diversity of thought. And I'm working on a couple of different collaborations with people. One is with another coach, one is with a photographer. So like the two couldn't be any further different. But both of those collaborations bring their own unique and exciting things. So, excuse me, I'm really looking forward to where that goes next year, because one of the collaborations has been beta tested, so we will do more of that in 2026. So watch this space. And then the completely new one, like I say, I can't even really say too much because it's not official yet. So watch this space for some for some marketing in the near future to announce what that one's all about. But both are all about well-being, and I really do love collaborating with other people who are just as interested in well-being as I am, because the impact that we have for the business community locally is quite exciting. And then what else am I doing for 2026? I've expanded my service offering just recently, in terms of the number of different ways that you can work with me, and that's all going to be expanding throughout 2026. It's all in train now, but it's in its infancy. So 2026 is absolutely the year to grow all of that. So I have quite big plans to be by the end of 2026 with everything that's happening. And obviously we've got some plans for the Renny show as well. So it feels like, my word of the year this year has been alignment. And I almost feel like it might need to be my word of the year again next year, because it has served me really well, because it's made me focus on the things that are actually aligned with me, with my values, to achieve where I want to be. And all of these things that are now building into 2026 and beyond feel very aligned. So it's a very exciting time. So there's a big chunk of watch this space, because like I say, it's not all public knowledge yet, but it's an exciting time, definitely. So how about you?
Yeah, well, my word of the year was streamline, was simplify.
Yeah.
So I've been doing some simplifying, and so yes, there are lots of exciting things planned. Obviously, the mother-in-law has taken a little bit of a back seat while I have been selling and buying houses. So I'm hoping to that will be my big focus for 2026, which is very exciting. And the Renny show, we're going to take the Renny show on the road. So we would love it. The Renny Road show. We would love it if you would let us know if you would like us to come to a coffee shop or a venue near you We were thinking the coffee shop, weren't we? Because we've got your friend with the. Oh, have you gone on?
My
You're
sound
muted.
went funny. The wonderful Charlotte at the Mindful Mug Cafe in Lincoln.
Mindful Mug, exactly. So we were thinking small, intimate venues where we will do the Renny show live, yeah, like the Radio 2 Roadshow back in the day.
Yeah.
So obviously that takes some planning. So we are very much looking forward to that. So what we would ask is if you would like us to come and do a live session in your area, please let us know. And Rachel, once I've actually moved house tomorrow, Rachel and I will be putting together a little tour map of
so
places
exciting.
that we want to go with the roadshow. So it's very exciting for next summer. So we would love it if you would let us know where you want to be. And of course, it will be a small, intimate venue. So you'll have a chance to really get to know us and talk to us and ask us any questions that you like. And we would look forward to seeing you in person.
Yes, absolutely. And it's going to be so much easier, isn't it? Because you're only going to be just down the road, which is going to be such a treat.
It's very exciting.
Actually get to see each other face to face more often. I love it.
I know.
Looking forward to being able to do shows where we're actually in the same room. That's going to be cool.
That would be so cool, wouldn't it? Yeah. Well, it will be. Yes.
Yeah. It just will be because it will be. Right. Well, I think we're on 46 minutes now and a little bit. So yeah, we've done it again. We always said when we started, didn't we? Yeah, let's aim for about half an hour each time. It almost never happens sometimes, but yeah, we just like talking, don't we, Jenny? So that's hopefully you enjoy listening to us talking. Oh, and we've got a comment which I will just. Oh, it's Femi. Hi, Femi. And he says it'd be great to see you sometime in Exeter. Right. Jenny, we need to go to Exeter.
It is.
I will be in touch, Femi. We will make that happen. That would be very exciting. And we would absolutely love to have you come down and talk to us on the show. That would be absolutely brilliant. Fabulous. Love it. See, it's all coming together. As soon as we've mentioned it, it's all coming together already. So yeah, so it's the end of today's show, but we will be back in a fortnight. We may or may not be at our usual time of 12:30 on our lunchtime. Fingers crossed that will be. We're back to normal. What's normal anyway? So we hope you've enjoyed the show. If you've got any comments that you would like to make, please do get in touch with us on our social channels because we love to carry on the conversation. But until then, take good care of yourselves.
And if you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, please subscribe, because the more people that subscribe to the Renny Show, the more people get to know about it. So we love subscribers. So please sign up, subscribe, and as Rach said, if there's anything you want to ask us, please keep in contact. And until then, till next time, be inspiring and be brilliant. We'll see you then.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.